I'm Christopher Brannon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And I'm George Williams from Northeast Kansas Library in Lawrence, Kansas.
Today we're going to be deviating a little bit from the norm. Usually we are doing something that works directly in Koha that allows us to change the way Koha functions or looks. Today we are going outside of that and looking at ways that we can enhance some content outside of Koha, like maybe on a website or a digital display, but based on content from our Koha system. So today we're going to be focusing on a plugin for WordPress that I found called Bookshelves, and going through that. This won't be a very long video, but hopefully sharing a resource that I found that was really exciting to find, easy to use, and you can get it going in minutes.
I'm already excited about this because Robin at our office manages like 100 websites for different libraries in Kansas that are all using WordPress. So this has a huge potential for use it has a huge potential for creating more work for Robin.
Well, hopefully not too much. No, it was really easy to set up. But before we get started, let me go ahead and get this screen shared again. And so just to start off again, we are sponsored by koha-US, and you can always find our videos on our Learn page. If you click Learn, the website is koha-us.org. Click on Learn, and then you can click on the Koha-US videos, jumps down to the bottom, all the way down here, and we are actually on episode 17 today.
Wow, we're going to need a page just for the videos soon. They're going to take up all of this Learn page.
Yep, we're going to town here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump over to our WordPress setup, just walk you through some of the details about this plugin. This plugin, if you are looking for it, it is called Library Bookshelves. It is a plugin that pulls information from your ILS. Here there is a list of ILSs that it will work with. So it is not just something that somebody threw together for their particular ILS, but they put some work into it. And Koha is one of the ILSs listed on there, which is fantastic. And it also supports book covers from all these different vendors.
Wow.
We happen to use Syndetics, but you can pull from Amazon or EBSCO, TLC, openlibrary.org, Baker and Taylor, and Chili Fresh. I haven't heard of Chili Fresh before.
I haven't heard of that one either. I'm kind of surprised Google Books isn't on there though.
But yeah, so they have an extensive list of ILSs and image support for this plugin. Also, the bookshelves can be populated in several different ways depending on your particular ILS. The method that we'll be using for this demo today is JSON. We're going to be actually pulling from a report, a public report in Koha to grab the information needed. So
you don't just, you also need to write a report then too, huh?
Yes, you'll have to create a report.
And make it public.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump over to the actual plugin interface. If I go up a little further, it creates a menu item called Bookshelves. And you can see I've created 3 bookshelves here. Before we dive into the bookshelves, I want to jump over to the settings. This is where you're going to set up your catalog information, where you're going to pull the images from, if you have any authentication information for that. It also asks for some things like Overdrive and Cloud Library if you want to include linking towards some of those extra resources. It does allow you to connect to your catalog, but also to, if you have Hoopla or Overdrive, or there's one other resource that it can link to, the Cloud Library catalog. It will link to those resources, so it really makes it
Right.
a handy resource. It's not just a pretty images, but it links to things you want to get people to.
Right.
So
I kind of like that it can go to these other places like Overdrive or Cloud Library or Hoopla even.
yeah.
So it can do a lot to promote those. Yeah.
The basic catalog settings are here. You do have some control over slider settings if you want to change some of those settings. These are the default settings. When you create a shelf, a bookshelf, you can override these settings, but these are going to be the default settings that you're going to work with. So you can set this up if you find that you're going to be using the same settings over and over. This is a good place to set those up so you don't have to repeat a lot of work. And then if you want even more customization, you can customize the CSS. I did not touch the CSS myself. I did tweak some of the slider settings, particularly on some things. I wanted slides to be, how many slides I wanted to show, how many rows, how many slides to scroll at a time, and the speed. You can set all of that. You can also set the responsiveness, when you are on different size screens. If you're using this on a website that can be used on a device or on a computer, you can adjust how those settings change depending on the screen size.
Oh, sorry, my phone.
Emergency.
Yep, Squad 51.
All right. With that said, once you get your settings created, you can go straight into Bookshelves. You can set up some locations. I did not set up any locations. I'm not exactly sure how that affects bookshelf creation, but apparently you don't need to use them at all. If you don't want to, you can go straight into creating a bookshelf. Now, when you create a bookshelf, you're going to need to create a report. So I'm going to go into this because before I go over to reports, because it has some information in how to actually do that. So when you create a bookshelf, like you might have a bookshelf on a page that is particularly geared towards an audience that you want to address. So like we have a bookshelf that is, our bookshelves that we've created are for our digital displays. I don't have any of these on our actual website just yet,
Okay.
but I created these for our digital displays. We went through an update. This is how I actually found this. We changed our hardware for our digital displays. Those big TVs that we have around the library that display information. And I had a web page prior to this that I had actually written my own code to look at a public report and pull this information and do something similar, but it was very specific to my web page. I couldn't use it for this new hardware, so I just on a fluke, I decided, okay, I'm going to check plugins and see if there's anything about digital displays or Koha in WordPress, and this
And
came
there it
up.
was, right?
Yes, there it was. So you can create bookshelves for different pages and whatever theme that you're going to be doing with that particular bookshelf. This one was geared towards our teen display. And so it's new items for the teens. And so down here, well, let's see here, I've selected up here, retrieve items from a web service. And I told it that the web service is Koha Reports web service. You have all the different options in here that you can choose from. You can choose a Koha RSS feed. I've never worked with a Koha RSS, so I just stuck with something that I knew. You can also do just pure JSON data, but I'm sticking with the Koha Reports web service. And it gives you an example of how that report needs to end up looking like in the
So those are the
application.
fields you need from the database. You need the report to find ISBN,
Yes.
title, and author. Okay.
ISBN, title, author. So and it just shows how it's gonna repeat. So these are the 3 key elements that you need, and in the order that you need them. And this is where you're gonna put in the URL for that particular report. You can put in how often you want that report to update. It gives me a preview if the link is good. And so you can see information that's pulling from our report already. So I did not have this open. Let me go ahead and jump into reports, and I believe
It was 906, I think it said.
Oh, you already saw it?
Yeah.
906, okay. So I have a report here specifically for this purpose. Just do a quick edit on here. And so there's not a lot to this. The big thing that you need to make sure of is that you're getting your ISBN, and you're getting your title, and you're getting your author. Those are the 3 elements that it required. And then however you gather that information, however you decide to group it or sort it, is up to you. And
Right.
I just limited the report to 30 results, so that it wouldn't be a huge result that the plugin had to wait on terribly long for.
Right.
So that information is plugged into to here, so we know that report is 906.
Right.
And
so that was going to be a question that I don't have, but I think other people might, is how do you get the public report URL?
That's a good question, and I'm trying to remember how in general. I know that, and I can put this on the screen so that everybody can see how the general layout of this is. So whatever your domain is, /cgi-bin/koha/svc/report question ID equals 906,
Right.
or in this case. So you put in the report number in this case. So this is the part that you need to focus on. You put this behind your, and this is important, put it behind your catalog URL, not your staff URL. So behind your catalog domain, and then plug in the report number that you're using, and you should be golden.
And you have to make that report public, right?
Yes, exactly.
When you're, yeah, it has to.
So the one key thing up in here is make sure that this is set to yes.
Right. Otherwise, it's only going to be available to people that are logged into Koha.
Right. So that information is plugged in, and as soon as you have that URL, the plugin starts trying to connect and gather that information, and you should see a preview fairly quickly of what that looks like. And this layout, the scroll, should all be per your settings that you set up in the settings menu. But you can, down below, you can override those defaults. So this is just a copy of the defaults. You can override any of these settings for this particular bookshelf. I changed in this one, let's not change it now. I changed it to 6 slides to show, and left, other settings the same. I may have tweaked the responsive settings a little bit. I'm not sure, but you can set all those settings here. You also have the ability to, down below, to link to different resources. So Cloud Library, Overdrive, Hoopla. You can't link to them all, obviously. You have to choose one of them if you do. So if for example, you have your Overdrive collection in Koha, and you want this to link straight to your Overdrive, you can have it do that. I haven't tried any of these settings. Again, these are for a digital display that nobody's interacting with. But by default though, and I really didn't have to do anything other than, in the main settings, point to my catalog domain name. But by default, these bookshelves, when you display your bookshelves, these titles actually link to your catalog, because it has the ISBN number and it has your catalog domain name. That's all it needs.
Right.
So once you get that all set up and save that, you're given a short code, and that short code can be used anywhere on your website. And I set up a page. There's not a lot to this. This doesn't link to anything in the website. This is just an isolated page that I put together that our digital displays are pointed at in its cycle. And this is the page that it's showing. It scrolls off a little bit because it's obviously not meant for this particular screen. It doesn't usually have the header up there. But this is the display it shows. Let me refresh this. I've got a little bit of animation in there. But if this is actually used on a web page, you can have it be responsive to, if you're hovering over things, if the sliding stops, you can, I don't think I can do anything here, but you can have arrows, you can have dots below it to indicate where you are in the scroll. But you can also click on one of the covers. It takes you right
to the catalog.
Yeah, right to that record.
Cool.
So very easy tool to use. Very few places that you have to set up just to get the thing working. I think the most that you'll have to do is tweak it for the page that you are using, so that you get the size the way you want it. You can tell it how many covers are being shown at once, how fast it's scrolling. You can do more than one row at a time.
Cool.
And
so it's got a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, and if you've got short codes, I mean, if you can have more than one bookshelf showing on the page at a time. So you could have different categories, different shelves scrolling through at a time. So
if one of our libraries wants to implement this in their existing WordPress website, the only thing, Robin will have to do some work, but then what I'll have to do is write a report.
Yep.
It's a really nice looking cover flow system.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. That plugin, it's just this section right here. I added the title, the background. I added the borders at the top and bottom and our library logo. But this is doing the bulk of the work. I just put the dressing around it. So when I built the page. So yeah, it works well. I have not had any issues with it, and yeah, real easy to set up.
Cool.
So
Well, thanks.
yeah, and yeah, like I said, short video today. Something out of the something off the grid a little bit, and we'll be back again in 2 weeks with more Koha fun.
Something new.
All right, we'll see you later.
See you later.